Sport Otago says it's the volunteers who blow whistles, man sausage sizzles or just balance the books on cold Dunedin evenings who really make sport happen. Now the men and women who put their time and effort into making sure our weekends are crammed with sporting fun are about to be recognised. Operations Manager Duane Donovan is here to tell us how. Good evening.
Hi Rebecca.
Tell us about these volunteers. What exactly do they do?
They do everything. They keep sport running. So they are the coaches and the officials and the committee members, but they're also the people standing on a corner with a flag, making sure our runners don't get lost. They're everything to sport.
Do we know how many volunteers there are and how many hours they put in?
We know nationally there's about 750,000 people who volunteer across all sport. Works out to about 50 million hours of volunteer time. So it's massive for this country.
Those are some pretty big numbers. So what's planned to recognise that effort?
So Sport New Zealand have got together with the Lotto Volunteers Foundation, and Sport Otago is getting in and supporting it locally. And the idea is that people can nominate anyone who is involved in sport. It's called the Sport Maker Program because it's more than coaches, more than officials. It's anyone who makes sport happen. And what they can do is they can go to lottovolunteers.co.nz. You go to that website, tell a wee story about the person that you want to nominate, just give us their details and why they're fantastic, and they'll go in a monthly draw. Someone in Otago will win $500 worth of merchandise from that draw, and everybody who does it gets an e-card as well, something that comes through, pops in their mailbox as a pleasant surprise.
Wonderful. Now you said it's a monthly draw, so how long is it going to be going for?
It's actually an ongoing project. Lotto and Sport New Zealand have committed to a 3-year involvement, so it's an ongoing one. Previously in Otago we've had the volunteer coach and then the Sports Volunteer of the Year awards. That was sort of a monthly thing. Well, now you can nominate a volunteer any time. Just go to the website and say why they're wonderful.
Oh, that sounds like a great idea. Now, why was the initiative put together?
Well, it's all about recognition, really. People don't volunteer because of the recognition, but we know that it's about gaining volunteers, training volunteers, and the key one is retaining volunteers. And making them feel recognised and making them feel valued and welcome is a really, really important part of people feeling a pat on the back means it was worth it.
Why do you think people get involved in volunteering?
A lot of the time it does flow out of their involvement in sport. So sport's a little bit different. People have often played it, or they've got kids that have played it, family members. They may have had to give up playing, like me. They may have had to move on to something else. Or they may just have got involved and they really enjoy it. Sometimes volunteers just get involved because they know if they don't do it, it's not going to happen. So there's lots of reasons. We just love them all.
Do you think people are finding it harder to find the time to volunteer these days?
People are time poor, but there are lots of different ways to volunteer as well. The traditional thing of giving up a whole evening to go and sit in a committee meeting in a dusty hall, that's not the only way to get involved nowadays. There's certainly loads of things people can do, even if it's just giving up an hour of their time. There's lots of different roles people fulfil.
Are you finding that it's getting harder to actually locate volunteers?
Not necessarily. People just want to volunteer differently. They want to say, I can do this. What can I do for the sport this way? So if they can give an hour on a Saturday, then it's a matter of finding something they can contribute. There's other people who do love to give up an evening so they can write up the results. It's whatever they can do. There's a role for them, and every single person is critically important. Go to the website, let us know their story, lottovolunteers.co.nz, and tell us why they're wonderful.
Operations Manager for Sport Otago, Duane Donovan, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Rebecca.